Greetings to the regular viewers of the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. I'm pleased to announce a new sister channel called the Evidence and Reasons Academy, or ER Academy for short, where I plan to hold classes and tutorial sessions on basic math, physics, chemistry, biology, and engineering to anyone interested. The primary purpose of these classes and tutorial sessions at the ER Academy is to first of all help me achieve a better grasp of the material that I studied myself in school. There is no better way to gain mastery of a subject than to try to teach it to others. Secondly, hosting classes and tutorial sessions will hopefully help creationists and ID proponents expand their skill set in order to understand and defend their ideas. I'm encouraging creationists and ID proponents to focus less time on debates where the subject matter is treated superficially. Whereas a few hours studying molecular and cell biology, studying concepts like the law of large numbers, will yield greater benefit for the time invested than merely watching recycled debates. Short debate formats are not the best way to see the weaknesses of abiogenesis theory and evolutionary theory. That's because in a short debate, these topics can only be superficially examined. And in such superficial examinations, abiogenesis theory and evolutionary theory are let off the hook. However, when laundry lists of problems with evolutionary theory are presented in debates, evolutionists will complain of a Gish Gallop, a tactic they named after the venerable creationist Duane Gish of the Institute of Creation Research. But rather than a Gish Gallop, let me introduce a tactic I call the Gish Gatling gun, where a stream of devastating problems are shot in rapid fire fashion and then followed up with detailed examination over the course of days and weeks. This is a picture of a Gatling gun on an A-10 Warthog. Firing off such a Gatling gun in a debate will not be persuasive since the audience won't know what hit them. But firing off the Gish Gatling gun and then exploring the problems in fine detail over subsequent days will deliver the full force of arguments that will destroy abiogenesis and evolutionary theory. But to understand the arguments in fine detail requires mastering basic science topics in math, physics, chemistry, and biology. I want to equip creationists and ID proponents with ammunition for their version of the Gish Gatling gun. And that's why I formed the ER Academy video channel. A link to the ER Academy is below in the description. Please support that channel for free by subscribing. Thank you.
Thanks. Time as any, Mr. Newman. Take her down to periscope depth.
Yes, sir. Clear the bridge. Dive.
Stand right.
I'm Salvador Cordova. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons video channel. And today we're going to be talking about the concept of expected value. And I'm joined here by my co-host, Pigzcanfly. So thanks for joining us. And we're going to try to work through this together. So I'm first going to share my screen just to test out see if I could do some power steering here. So let me try this. XI, and let's see if I can render it. Will it render? Is it gonna, it's supposed to be able to, oh, it's not gonna do that to me, is it?
I like how it has all the other symbols there. It doesn't give you the ability to do X of I.
Oh, it used to render it,
It's
used
LaTex
to render it on the
dot
screen,
code docs.
and
Here, I'm going to try to pull that up myself.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to try to pull up that program real quick so I can get a good idea of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's LaTex code cogs.
Code
I used to be
com.
able to do this without having to download it. So now it's being kind of,
Yeah, it's just not pulling up here on my side.
okay.
And,
Oh, there it is, XI.
okay, there you go.
XI equals, all right, let's say X of heads. Let's try this. Okay, X heads.
There you
Okay,
go.
X heads equals 100%. Maybe it doesn't like that. Maybe it likes, but it definitely didn't like that. I don't know why it
It
didn't
did
like
1%. It did the 1%,
1%.
but it didn't show up whenever.
So let's
Yeah, that's
try this.
strange.
I think it really likes brackets.
Yeah,
No,
possibly that could be the issue.
you would think it
Well, it
would.
didn't need the brackets for the 1%, so I think it's probably that maybe it doesn't desire 100%.
Let's see, 1%. So it's just kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
It likes 10%. It just blows.
It gets
Oh,
10%.
okay.
Oh,
Now it
there's
likes
100%.
100%.
There.
So you're seeing the rendering here.
No idea. Yeah.
100%. And then if I say X tails equals
0, right?
0%. I don't know why it didn't like that.
Do you have to be like right next to it, like on your cursor for it, or
Okay, so
oh, it has to be next to each other?
so it should let me do it on separate lines. I've never had problems with it on separate lines.
Yeah, it's still there from what I can see. I think it was just the initial condition because it was right after, and you had already pressed enter, so it was a little bit further down. But it looks fine now.
Well, it's concatenating it, which I didn't want it to do. So this is,
So it's adding them together where you didn't want it to be.
yeah, I didn't want it to do it that way.
Okay.
So let me, see, now I lost my equation editor. I don't know what happened. Okay. It didn't used to be that way. Let's see, LaTeX. So it used to be code cogs was the best one, but now it's kind of not as good as it used to be. So let me try this one.
Oh, look. I mean, okay, so yeah, I was going to say, that's not the same algorithm, right?
It's not. So,
Okay.
and I'm afraid they're going to put these. I can't really, let's see if I can get rid of that. Okay. So this is LaTeX for Technics. Okay, so that's, I can almost do this from, let's see, X heads equal 100%. And I don't know why it's not.
Populating on the side.
Oh, I'll do compile. All right, so let's just start with this. Let me just compile.
Okay. Yeah, it's on the right side.
The Math Jax likes it. This is a little bit obnoxious here that it's. Well, it's rendering it down here on the lower right. So X heads equals 100%. Now let's do a compile. All right, it likes it.
Yeah, equals 100.
And
Okay.
I think what it wants is to have a.
Does the percent have to be in
It
front?
has to be a
Is that maybe
literal.
what's in mind?
There's a literal
Oh, okay.
percent. I forgot how to do a literal. Let me look that up. LaTeX percent.
Sorry, I'm completely ignorant on this.
And it wants a // percent. A backslash.
Okay.
That's what it wants. Okay, so I'm learning how to type this because I can have cleaner looking. Yeah, see, that's what I wanted. X heads
Okay, there
equals
you go.
100%. And then I'm going to say X tails equals 0.
So backslash percent again.
Yep. And then
Copy,
see,
copy.
now we're starting to get where I wanted. P heads is equal to 0.5 and P tails equals. Now I'm going to compile it. Oh, and it would.
Okay.
I need to get a carriage return here. See if it's going to let me do a carriage return. Okay, let me see. LaTeX. The
I think
new
it's doing
line
it successively, so it's
slash. Let me try to do this. I think it likes this. Let's see if it will do that. Okay.
yeah. So just 2 backslash.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Oh, so I can tell this is going to be fun because you seem comfortable with computer languages already. This is great.
Yeah, I did a little bit of studies on like coding and things like that, but I'm not like super great at it or anything like that. Can't
Okay,
hack
so,
anybody's computers or
yeah.
anything like that.
So we have the Math Jax here. I'm going to just close this LaTeX window because it just keeps giving me compile errors. And I'm just going to expand here. Oh, this is great. See, I can do math. See, once I learn the hang of it, so the equation we had to deal with, it's expected value. We wanted to, this, by the way, you've helped me more than I've helped you, I'm afraid, because I really wanted to learn how to do, be able to type math. Okay, so we're actually just going to go through the symbols here. XI means going through basically all of the values of X.
Yeah, like what it.
And so
What's
all
the
the
physical
values of
property
X
of
are
that?
like X. I'm sorry.
What would be the physical property of that? Like if we were looking at something in reality?
You'll see it. So kind of one of the unfortunate things is you actually have to try to do this in the total abstract in the math sense. And then it starts to get a physical interpretation. And then
Okay.
sometimes it gets into pure theoretical stuff, which is also nice too. But the idea is, maybe I should have used I'm going to amend the symbols a little bit here. I'm going to use a lowercase x. And I'm going to recompile it. And let's look at the symbols again. So let me, when we have like an iterator here, like just think all the discrete states that an object can take. Coins are really easy. They're only two things, heads and tails. That's why it's really nice. So we could say I equals heads and tails. So maybe I'll make that more explicit, where equals heads, comma, tails. Let's recompile that.
Okay.
So just, all right, so I takes on values of, it only takes on, we could say 0 and 1, but that's just going to make it more confusing. I'll just say I equals heads or tails. So we're going to iterate through, once you can get through 2 of them, then you can get through any number. And then let me modify the, let's see, x is, let me make sure I get the notation here. What's going to be a little frustrating is everyone will render this a little different. xi. I don't like this notation. This is terrible. I can see it already. F of xi. Right, everyone's using different notations. This is going to be annoying. This is going to be totally backward from the way it's stated here, because I really don't like this notation. Let me look at another one. So this is, like I said, this is a learning session for me. That's why I like teaching, because it's a great chance to also learn.
No worries, I'm learning, definitely.
And this is where it's going to be aggravating, because okay, so the way they have it in Wikipedia is what I was thinking. You have xi, pi, and so xi, we can actually, I think, see if they actually have this. No, they don't have it as a function. All right. So let's go with the Wikipedia definition of expected value. So I just totally clunked through this. And it's kind of like what I don't, it's a little frustrating in math. Everyone defines their symbols differently. Let me see if they had the word Pascal. Okay, so just as history, the idea of expected value originated in the middle of the 17th century from the study of the so-called problem of points, which seeks to divide the stakes in a fair way between two players who have to end their game before it is properly finished. This problem has been debated for centuries, and many conflicting proposals and solutions had been suggested over the years. When it was posed to Blaise Pascal by French writer and amateur mathematician Chevalier de Mere in 1654, Mere claimed that this problem couldn't be solved and that it just showed how flawed mathematics was when it came to its application to the real world. Pascal, being a mathematician, was provoked and determined to solve the problem once and for all. He began to discuss the problem in a now famous series of letters with Pierre de Fermat. Soon enough, they both independently came up with a solution. They solved the problem in different computational ways, but the results were identical because their computations were based on the same fundamental principle. The principle is that the value of a future gain should be directly proportional to the chance of getting it. This principle seemed to have come naturally to both of them. They were very pleased by the fact that they had found essentially the same solution, and this in turn made them absolutely convinced that they had solved the problem conclusively. However, they did not publish their findings. They only informed a small circle of mutual friends in Paris about it. 3 years later, in 1657, a Dutch mathematician, Christian Huygens, who had just visited Paris, published a treatise, De Ratiocinis in Ludo Ale, on probability. In his book, he considered the problem of points and presented a solution based on the same principles as the solutions of Pascal and Fermat. Huygens extends the concept of expectation by adding rules for how to calculate expectations in more complicated situations than the original problem, e.g. for 3 or more players. In this sense, this book can be seen as the first successful attempt at laying down the foundations of the theory of probability. So, and it says here, neither Pascal nor Huygens used the term expectation in the modern sense. So interested people can look at this, but the idea of expected value comes from those mathematicians, Pascal, Fermat, and Huygens. And this does relate to Pascal's wager, but I was just taking a break there just to kind of
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, just see the context. I mean, if you could, this took centuries to solve, and that's why we have all these formalisms. So anyway, I'm using now, we're going to do this summation here, xi, pi, and we're just going to calculate e of x. And so I'm just going to execute it here. So e of x equals, no, let me see. I'm going to try to do this in painful.
X of I.
Sum of xi pi. There's a way to do this. Let's see. I think, is it sum?
If you're going to do some, I think you have to put parentheses or, yeah, brackets.
Xi pi? Is it pi? Xi? I may not even need the parentheses. But let's just see how this renders. Maybe it's going to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this. Let's recompile.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's what I want. I mean, there's a way I could add limits. I'm not going to put the limits for now. I mean,
Okay.
there's a way to do this so it looks a little, well, while we're here, and this is learning experience, I'm trying to make this look like this. Let me see if I can.
Right.
Let me see. I'm going to try this one more time. Sum I equals 1 to k. Okay, let me try this. Sum, okay, some LaTeX editors won't take this. I to, let's try it. There.
Aha. Okay. But here it says I equals 1, so
Okay.
that's just the assumed value.
Yeah,
right?
we
That's
can,
not the actual.
I can do that. I equal. Well, it's better if I just leave it I, because I don't, it's
Yeah,
not really
because it's going
one.
to be an assumed value, I think.
Yeah, we
That's
could do
okay.
I to K or I to N. What did they use? Let me see. Okay, we'll just go to, you know what? I don't like that I to K symbol. So I'm just going to remove it. I mean, the thing is people that work with this will figure out what the symbols mean. And that's what can be a little frustrating, is that everyone will kind of represent the same idea a little different, and the notation can just throw you off. I had that experience recently. So let's just try to calculate this. I to K, and so that equals, and I'm just going to do this really explicitly, x heads times p heads plus x tails times p tails let's compile it. Let me fix that. I like this editor. I actually do. This is nice. X heads, P heads, X tails, P tails. And then now let's put some numbers to it. That equals, X heads is 100% times 0.5 plus 0% times 0.5. And that equals 50%. So if we did this right, after all that, oh, and let me I need to put a correction symbol here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of formality to get the expected value of 50%. But you could see that one could extend the idea to any number of situations. And so we spent probably 30, 45 minutes just going through the formalities and also seeing the different ways that they express expected value. But this can be done, it can be expanded and generalized to all sorts of things. But if you can do it for a simple case like this, one can actually see kind of the notion of expected value. So obviously, if you just have one coin and you flip it, it's not going to be 50% heads or it's not going to be 50% heads. It's either going to be heads or tails if you just have
100%.
one coin. But now if you have a system of 1,000,000 coins, or if you flip the coin 1,000,000 times and just record the results, you should get approximately 50%. And there is, I believe, the strong law of large numbers. If you go out to infinity, it will be 50%. If you could hypothetically flip it an infinite number of times, I think that's what the strong law of large numbers is. And so like if you have just, say, 2 coins, if you only do, like, say, 2 flips, you may not end up with 50%. If you do 1 flip, you definitely won't end up with 50% because it's either going to be 0 or 100%. If you have 2 coins, it won't be 50%. But the more flips you have, the number of heads and tails will continue to approach 50%. And that's all it means. The law of large numbers means we're going to approach, the average will approach the expected value. And so the expected value is 50% and the average will approach it. And that it's as simple as that. But you could see that the formalities are kind of heavy-handed. One doesn't necessarily have to do this for like just a coin flip, but if we have more complicated scenarios, then you need the machinery of that formality to be able to process it all. Definitely, if one is analyzing casino games, you'll need all these formalities to help with the accounting. So that was kind of agonizing to be able to do that. But you said you did well when you took math.
I can imagine.
So this, I think this exercise just helped me to get more familiar with LaTeX. So I'm going to say this LaTeX for technics.com. And now we know how to
you could do like
convert the symbols.
Hang on, I'm going to do a snipping tool.
If you wanted to try to type something yourself and try to communicate it to me, that'd be fine too. So the reason I
actually can't see this on the computer. I can send you like the snapshot of what was saved.
Okay.
So that you have it for your records.
So surprisingly, this is kind of important to analyzing aspects of the origin of life. There are some chemical outcomes that can be described in terms of the law of large numbers or violations thereof. The violations being what creationists and ID proponents would say is a indicator of intelligent design.
Right.
And, a very simple example is if we have homolinkage that, let's say 500 DNA bonds to be properly homolinked, even 500 of them would be astronomically remote based on the law of large numbers. And we can actually justify that in terms of chemistry. I mean, Change Tan spent a lot of time, because she's a physical organic chemist, and she is saying in a random prebiotic soup, these reactions just don't happen naturally. It's the opposite. It is
exactly
well modeled by coin flips, because there's no way to control it. You need all the machinery of the cell to regulate it. When we try to build these DNAs from pure scratch, like if I took Craig Ventnor's files on a computer and said, okay, this is the representation, now build it in a chemical environment, we have to have these robotic machines do it, and it does it painfully slow.
Exactly.
Because they have to orient things, and I can illustrate that. So did you want me to show your what you did on my screen, or if you
No, it was just to have it for references in case we need to use it for future use for some reason. That way you don't have to go through like, I mean, you don't have to retype it, but it'll be much easier to pick it out, just for your future references. Because I do that all the time when I'm working. Like I have something I pull, I'm like, I need this for later, so I'll hold on to it.
Oh, great. So let me do it and try to do this in.
Yeah, I just sent you the.
Oh, it gave me an error. I was trying to export it, and it completed.
Oh, don't worry. You already have it in your email. Yeah.
Okay.
I just took a snipping tool, pulled out that segment, and then we already have it saved there. It's good to go. I'm still typing it out though, just for my references, so I don't forget the algorithm. But
yeah. So this is what I feel that this is time well spent. You see, we spent an hour, but now we feel both you and I feel more comfortable with the concept. I feel more comfortable trying to teach it and then explain what it means. Because it's really frustrating when I say expected value and people just shake their head. I'm just like, it would help if you all just had 2 hours of this instead of spending it on these shouting matches in the open mic. Just like, I know some of you guys spend hours listening to open mic shouting matches. Spend an hour and you'll learn the term expected value. We don't have to get into the really complex ones. Being able to do heads and tails is very adequate. Now, what happens in Change Tan's case, it's actually, instead of heads and tails, you have maybe You have thousands of states possible, or hundreds of combinations that can happen. And so this, it becomes just insane to, maybe it would be a good exercise if I actually tried to do this with her chemical diagrams and say, okay, let's just make the numbers a little easier. And this will be actually very generous to make it this way, because it's a lot worse if we actually use the actual numbers. And it would still be, it would be astronomical.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It'd be astronomical within about 20 nucleotides, because the chemicals are so fragile. Maybe
yeah, I tried to explain this same problem to several atheists, actually. I mean, I actually understood this portion of like abiogenesis like years ago. Even when I was an agnostic, I understood that there were some serious problems there. And I mean, just based on like the probabilities of like a coin flip, I mean, you're talking crazy numbers here just to start, not even getting to the actual numbers you would need.
Right.
And that's why I mean, whenever it came down to it, like, I think intelligent design is not only the best explanation, it's really just the only one. It's not like a,
yeah.
I just, whenever I look at it and I see those numbers, I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, okay, that's impossible. There's literally no other way. There has to be a designer, right, that would put those sorts of things into motion. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen, period.
Right. And,
even sorry.
Oh,
I was just going to say that I have seen scientists even claim that numbers that go beyond like 1 times 10 to the 40th, I think it was, or no, I'm sorry, it was 150th. That's like beyond impossible. Like it's something that would just not happen in nature, period.
Well, it actually,
And,
this analysis explains why life doesn't spontaneously arise. It's consistent actually with experiment and observation. And the abiogenesis advocates have to invoke imaginary scenarios that they can't possibly prove, and they have to cherry pick the data. So this was the diagram showing what Change Tan was analyzing, and she was analyzing all the various combinations. I mean, this is okay. A physical organic chemist would understand these diagrams. I kind of like halfway do, but she was pointing out we just have two different nucleobases, and I'm embarrassed. I think one's cytosine, the one's adenine. I should know which one is which. Okay, adenine, and then the cytosine. Okay, so this is adenine here, and this is cytosine, and she's showing all the ways that they could be combined. She estimated there's on the order with just two. Okay, so this is more sophisticated than the coin flip. This is how we can put all the parts together, and there's 16,000 different ways to do it. So instead of a coin that has heads or tails, you have something with 16,000 different states.
And the odds would actually be comparable to the number of interactions you actually have first. So you already have 16,000 possible interactions. That's not even counting the actual interactions you're required to have just to make the certain chemical compound, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly. So if you throw this in a soup, the odds that it'll, okay, what she was basically saying is it's really nice when you can just build it like this, which the cell does. But if we just threw it in a random soup, it's just going to be a mess. And I tried to illustrate the problem with, there are various ways to illustrate the problem, but I tried to illustrate it with Scrabble letters.
Okay.
And let me illustrate it.
I think you just passed it a moment ago.
Okay, so here are the Scrabble letters. If we just threw them there, you couldn't read them.
Right.
And so I'm just going to spell the word ledger. But let's say we had them all in sort of disoriented connections.
Different.
Right. It's not readable. To make it readable,
and see, it's funny because a lot of atheists whenever I talk to atheists, they'll usually say, well, you can't compare this to a code, right? So you can't start using words as like a comparison.
Correct.
And I always say, that's not what the modern scientists say. Like the modern day scientists are saying it's actually code. So.
What I'll say is I won't even go there. I don't go into the code argument. You'll notice I avoid it, even though I agree with it. What you can do, however, is that independent of meaning, for this to be read by a machine, for example, it has to be arranged in a way that is lined up. Because you could see there's so many ways we could make this not even readable. You have to orient the Scrabble letter so that it's readable. And I'm going to do that right now. And what is this analogous to? This is analogous to
different interactions.
The chemical, where was it here? The DNAs being able to be aligned so that they're in readable format, because then you can have one machine that's going to go through here and read it or replicate it or whatever. Because if it's not in this nice little railway here, you see how it has kind of like this phosphate group kind of out here, and it's nice and uniform. This makes this DNA strand readable. If we didn't have that,
and it has to be like that.
Yeah, that's why a genome wouldn't be readable if you just had it. Basically, if a genome were if you had all the nucleotides just kind of scrambled like that, which is what it would be in a prebiotic soup, it's not readable. That's not
exactly.
We're not even talking about code here. We were just talking about making something readable.
And see, that's not even the only issue if you really think about it, because so just even assuming that there would be interactions like this chemically anywhere, right? We're talking about within like nanometers, or microns, basically, right? Extremely small space. You have to be within that small space to have the interaction in the first place, right? So, I mean, you think that this stuff is like moving around? What's happening here? No, it's going to be sitting there, and then maybe something might get nudged towards it, possibly accidentally. I don't know, but still, I mean, the odds of that happening are just insanely low.
Well, and the reason we know that is we've tried to build DNA from scratch, and we've had to borrow cellular machinery to help us, for one. And then when we try to do it, even then, when we try to build some things from scratch, she goes into this in her book, and she describes the experimental, all the robots that are needed, that they mix the chemicals, and then they quote unquote freeze the process, change all the chemicals, put another set in, and then that's how you add one nucleotide at a time, and it's very painful and slow. And she was just saying, yeah, in life it does it like millions of times faster. It is slow. Our robots are so slow and inefficient by comparison. And so this was the point of the let me see if I could bring this down now. This was the point of the law of large numbers. So let's go back to this. Yeah. So this is why this concept is important, because it's not that we have to analyze all aspects of life. This is just the first round. I mean, we haven't even dealt with making proteins or functional proteins, and then transmembrane proteins that are part of in the lipid bilayer.
Right.
Like
there's so much. I mean, the lipids alone is to me mind-boggling. I mean, what I think Dr. James Tour talked about it. He said there's over 40,000 individual lipids. So we're not even talking about like just one type. We're talking about 40,000. That's required to be there, and they're all different. Yeah.
And the origin of life researchers are trying to simplify things, and they're giving misleading. I'm tempted to say dishonest, but dishonest is when you know that what you're saying is untrue. I think these guys are just deluded, and that someone can be mistaken because they're just flat deluded. They're believing their own falsehoods, and at least then the conscience is clear, and they could say, "Well, I believe it," And I'm just like, well, everything that we know about chemistry doesn't agree with that. But if you want to delude yourself, go ahead, but don't delude other people. Is what I'm complaining about. So this is why the importance of expected value. Now, I can I can extend this idea to casino games if you like. If, for example, we made X heads equal to, I'm just going to pick a number. 1 X heads equals, let me see. Yeah, we could actually use the same symbols. So let me change that from a, let me change the pound, the percent symbols into dollars. See if I could do that.
Dollars, okay.
Not that we would, well, actually there is a casino. There's a casino, what they call a free bet. So this does actually have some relevance both to Pascal's wager and how to beat the casinos. and people have beaten the casinos with this. It's called a, it's when the casinos have created a marketing weakness. So basically, instead of percentages, let me correct this. So that's, I'm just going to put in dollars instead of the percentages. Now we're corrupting people here because we're teaching them how to gamble. Well, we call it invest. Okay. So we can just change it. And you're like, that's kind of funny. And basically the casino, they call it a marketing campaign where they try to attract patrons. Like, let's say they'll give a promotion. They'll say, oh, you can come to the casino. We'll give you a free bet and you could stay here. Just pay the hotel like $50 and we'll give you a free bet. Or pay the hotel. Like if you go to the hotel, like they have these travel packages. So someone just wants to go to Las Vegas for fun. And in the travel package, they'll say, hey, you know, we'll give you a coupon and it's a free bet. If you lose, you don't lose any money. But if you win on the coupon, we'll pay you $100. They call that, yeah, they call that a free bet. And I've actually, some people are really smart and they've analyzed it and they said, oh, you know, I have this, if I purchase this coupon book, or they'll find a way to, maybe sometimes through dishonest means, to get multiple coupon books. Like there's a time someone actually just went, this is, I mean, it's rare, but he found all these free coupon books that were just at the airport as kind of a marketing ploy. And granted, they weren't, I mean, the sum total maybe of the coupons is maybe $1, but he found thousands of these. So he just was playing all these free bets in the casino just all day long. I mean, that's not, I mean, that's very time consuming, but he was able to convert all his coupons and made $1,000. And so the way that people have very successfully beat the casinos is when they analyze their marketing promotions and the cost of getting the coupons. They weigh it out. And one guy beat Atlantic City casinos for $4 million because he knew how to game the system.
Gosh. Wow.
So what he did, he was also a really good con artist. He posed himself as like a total degenerate loser gambler. And so the casino said, okay, this guy has a lot of money. He doesn't know what he's doing. And we'll also give him what they call a loss rebate. And it could be in the form of these coupons. And so he just played he acted out the role of just being a total degenerate drunk. And he wasn't, but he was a very good actor. And so he would be just like anyone else losing, but they say, hey, we'll give you 20% rebate on all your, when you get a really bad loss. And so they'd be giving him these coupons or whatever, or the equivalent of them. And he realized, oh my goodness, you know, just that little bit of extra could help me using the law of large numbers. if I just play the game long enough, I'm gonna extract millions of dollars in the casino, and he did. He didn't cheat. He just realized the
hilarious.
casino managers were just foolish. And just for the sake of
they would bet against him.
let me, just for completeness, let me see. Don Johnson. Here it is. Here's the story. And it's in, of all things, the magazine, The Atlantic. Oh, here it is. The man who broke Atlantic City, Don Johnson, won nearly $6 million playing blackjack in one night, single-handedly decimating the monthly revenue of Atlantic City's Tropicana Casino. Not long before that, he'd taken Borgata for $5 million, Caesars for $4 million. Here's how he did it. And
wow.
I laid out the basic math here. Is what you do if you want to beat the casinos, find out when they do something stupid and just give you the equivalent of free bets. Because if you flip heads and you get $100 and you flip tails, you get $0. You don't get any penalty. You take that bet.
Right.
And there's just there are variations on this, and that's essentially what he was doing. Of course, you have to be really clever to be able to bamboozle the casinos so that they would give you such generous terms. But what he was doing, he's saying, Borgata gave me these terms. I'll play here if you give me better terms. And of course, they would give him these better terms. And then he would go back to the other casino. He said, I'm going to play at that casino now because they give me these terms. And so he got the casinos to keep competing against each other. And when he was in position, all he had to do is just finally cash in. So he killed Atlantic City, just wiped them out. He was a genius. So the math was actually pretty simple, but it's the con artistry that made him successful. I couldn't have done what he did.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of the casinos for a mere 30,000, but this guy was just cleaning him out. I wasn't a good beer. I looked like a scholar. They had a beat on me. They said, this guy doesn't look like a gambler. Okay. They took one look at me. He said, yeah, that's a scholar. He looks like a university student. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Did you have any other questions? And we can have another session like this.
I put the whole algorithm over here in one of my sticky notes, and then I was just kind of typing that out while you were talking about what was going on. And no, I really appreciate that. That's pretty awesome that y'all managed to do all that.
Yeah.
And you said you won 30,000.
Yeah, I won 30,000 over an extended period of time. And in small casinos, small amounts at a time. I didn't like wagering lots, but they began to track.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they began to see it. They said my betting patterns were correlated with the favorable odds. It's very simple. The idea of card counting. If, for example, the dealer let's just take a single deck game, and he's dealt out half the cards, and you haven't seen any aces dealt out. That means, by way of inference, the rest of the deck is rich with aces, and you could do that for like what they call the face cards. So if you're able to estimate that the deck is rich in aces and face cards, you have a statistical edge over the casino, and you just play that. And so that's what a card counter all that he does, and he has to find favorable games to that effect. And that's how the card game is beaten. But some of like the best attacks on the casino has been when the casino has made mistakes, and a sharp mathematician with at least some moderate ability has seen that, they've had a failure in their marketing promotions. So I gave an example with where there's this is actually Pascal's wager. You have nothing to lose by playing the game, something to gain.
Exactly.
And that's when you can find these situations, and the marketing department has made a slight vulnerability, it can be exploited, and you can take the casinos for millions. So what'll happen sometimes is these teams of advantaged players that will just, there has to be some level of trust that they're going to handle the money correctly. They'll just go into the casinos, and they might have $1 million and then start wagering it, but it's really cover for exploiting all of the marketing coupons, and then they'll come away making $1 million.
Okay.
But there has to be trust in those teams to be able to do this. And there are other perks. You can be put up in $1,000 a night hotels and just like for free. So that's also kind of nice. So the irony though is the people that are good at this really don't get caught up in the lifestyle, because if they did, their discipline would break down and they'd actually be very bad gamblers. So that's kind of the irony. The people that don't like that lifestyle actually do the best. And so that's why, oddly enough, one of the best teams of casino sharks were Christians. And that was the movie The Holy Rollers. Did you ever see
Holy
that?
Rollers. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Okay, let me
Yeah, I
show
watched
it
a
to
good
you.
portion of it, and I checked that portion at the end that you were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So that was yeah, that was a part of my life. My father had passed away, and I was just lost. It kind of just being able to just go to the casinos and not, just to count cards. It's kind of just like jogging or something. It just kind of got my mind off of the pain, and it kind of was an escape and a chance to use my math skills. And that, other than that, I really didn't like the casino environment at all. Just all the gambling, drinking, and smoking just really turned me off.
Same. I don't really drink or anything like that. Even when I was in the Navy, I didn't drink. And
I'd like to thank everyone here who joined us for our talk. And again, I'd like to thank Pigzcanfly as for his service in the United States Navy on board submarines. And he did mention that he got to see some seals on his submarine, and I was sharing with Pigzcanfly that on my channel I had the privilege of interviewing a platoon commander, Sandy Pigeon, and Sandy gave his testimony of how he became a Christian. So I would invite people that want to hear Sandy's testimony to go to the channel, and there's featured past shows, and there you could see Sandy's testimony there. And so Pigzcanfly, I look forward, if you want to talk again, we can on math and origin of life or technical matters like this. This also gives me an opportunity to announce to the viewers I'm having a daughter channel, so to speak, called the Evidence Reasons Academy, where we can actually do more of this pure math stuff and just pure science, because this can get we can get very bogged down in just teaching many classes on just basic science and math, physics, and chemistry. That's very important, and I don't want it to. I don't want it to get. I want to segregate it away from the Evidence and Reasons main channel, which is a little bit more for popular consumption, and even then, that's really nerdy. But the Evidence and Reasons Academy, it's going to be the norm that we have just almost pure academics there, and some Christian theology and encouragement, but we'll segregate that out. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and wish everyone a happy new year. Take care, and God bless you all.